that. So today we are talking about co-housing, and the title is Some Assembly, Co-housing, Some Assembly Required. And so we're looking forward to hearing about co-housing. We have Diana Sullivan, Elizabeth Stewart-Spencer, and also John Patrick is supposed to be joining us, so he'll come in. Diana is the spirit behind New American Villages. Her studies include eco-village design, practicum of village habitat design and co-housing development, and the Coho University Association in the United States. She has created the New American Villages to encourage sustainable communities supported by food production with the idea of a village on a farm in the city, which I think is a great idea. I want to welcome you all to join us at the table and just have a...
Yeah, very much.
Thank you both.
Okay, well, I guess I'll stand up here. It's good to be here with you right now. I have a background as a commercial real estate agent, and I've often working with developers that have looked at why they build the way they do and why we can't be more sustainable. And I felt that the best sustainable idea was that we would have a farm nearby. Just like the golf course is an amenity to a community, why not have a farm? As I began to research and look at the idea, though, the key ingredient for sustainability is community. It's not about the buildings or the energy efficient pieces or necessarily just about the food, but it's about the community. And the best model for community that I felt was with co-housing. And so I had an opportunity to sit in on class with Greg Ramsey when he was talking about sustainability, conservation communities, and co-housing. And I learned more about co-housing at that point. And then in June, I had an opportunity to go to Boulder. Come on in, John. Come on up front, please. I had a chance to go to Boulder, Colorado, and where they were having a U.S. co-housing conference. And I went there with Michelle Marcheski, who is with MBA Architects, who she was also interested in how co-housing got put together. And we took classes with the developers, architects, and with marketers, and with other residents. And then we had a chance to tour some of those other locations. And I'm going to just sort of pass this book around here. I decided not to do any kind of a visual presentation on these communities because Greg Ramsey's going to be here, and he does a really good presentation, and so he'll take care of that part. But I want to talk about co-housing and how it's organized with the community. And so I'm just going to pass this book around where we took some pictures out in Boulder, and then our group is beginning to form. And I also ask that if you will, when you leave here, I just got a sheet of paper back there. If you want to keep up to date on what we're doing and get updates from us, just go ahead and sign your name and give us an email address or a phone number. But while we were in Boulder taking these classes, when the conference started, we ran into Stewart-Spencer and her friend Janet Pierce, who had driven from Nashville out to Boulder to research more on co-housing. And we're on our way to a tour around the Southwest to learn and take a look at these communities and see which ones that they want to live in. So we were really excited about running into them. And then we came back to Nashville and we started holding meetings to get the word out about co-housing, because when you say co-housing, a lot of people think commune. And so you have to kind of break down that stereotype that this is just a different type of community organization that is usually driven by the residents. And so anyway, we came back and we started doing these presentations, and then we ran into John Patrick. And John was from Washington, right outside of Washington, D.C., and he had lived in co-housing there called Blueberry Hill. And so he has a wealth of knowledge in what it's like to live in one of the communities. And so our group just began to kind of meet, and we began to do educational presentations. We've had 3 meetings. Our first meeting was, there were about 15 people that attended. The second meeting, there 22. I'm thinking that our meeting tomorrow night at the Unitarian Universalist Church, which is going to be at 1808 Woodmont Boulevard, it starts at 7 p.m., is going to be a good-sized meeting. But the group is beginning to kind of come together, and so while we're at the same time educating people on what co-housing is, we're also beginning to organize as a group. So we did have one meeting the end of August with just the group that had kind of got together at my house, and we worked around doing some envisioning work and talking about what the interests were of the group and trying to get a sense of who was coming forward and what they were looking for. I think in that manual that I'm sitting around, there were there's a list of some of the brainstorming that came out of that. So this is sort of the first phase in co-housing, and that is when we all begin to kind of come together and talk about it. What is it? And we learn as much as we can. So I would encourage you to get on the website there at cohousing.org, where there's an entire association. There's about 120 co-housing communities that are already been formed over the last 20 years that are complete. There's another 100 or so that are on the way to being developed. And it's just an excellent way for a community to have sustainability, because the true ingredient for sustainability is that group, that community group. So let me just, I'm going to introduce you to Michelle, if you don't mind. This is Michelle Procheski, who went with me to Boulder. So I think I gave some of our people in our group maybe the wrong direction. So anyway, okay, so this is phase one, in which we begin to kind of get the word out and start talking about it. People begin to come together and begin to develop relationships, because co-housing is about relationships, building those relationships. And we're getting to a point right now where I'm looking and thinking that we're at a point where we have a core group of people, anywhere from 5 to 15 people that come forward, that have the ability, the interest, and the commitment to move the project forward. And I think after our meeting tomorrow night, we will be in a good place with that. And then we'll move to phase two. And phase two will be where we begin to discuss an ownership structure, a financial structure. We'll look at sites, and we'll make a decision on a site, and we'll get it under contract. We'll start our due diligence period, and we'll be marketing all at the same time, that particular community. The goal in co-housing is to get to a point where you have 80 to 85% of the residents committed and or the homes sold before you actually break ground. So that it's definitely a resident-driven community.